in slides and things like that. Yes, yeah. But otherwise, well, thanks for the intro. And so this is I've done this session 2 other times. I've tweaked it each time. There's a lot that's happening. In fact, I just jumped off a call. There was an MVP call with the planner project team working on some new features and requesting feedback. So this kind of takes me back to my roots, which I'll talk about here, but I'm going to go through and kind of give you an idea of what's happening. Let me just say first off that task management across the Microsoft 365 universe is kind of a moving target. There's a lot that's happening. I'm going to talk about what's happening at the high level and the concepts that are going into what's out there today. But there are definitely some gaps in the user experience that are there today. But I'm happy to answer questions as they come up as well. And feel free, gents, to interrupt me since I'm not watching the chat, since I've got the presentation open. Interruptions are fine. Picture of me, already an outdated picture, one other child, married, a grandson now in the place, and a second dog. So I need to update the photo. Yeah, we're actually, since I had... right after this picture, my second oldest son went on a mission. He since returned. The youngest just returned from his mission. So we've not all been together for over 3 years. So that's happening in December. It's my in-laws' 50th anniversary, my 30th wedding anniversary. So all the family's going to get together, and we're forcing them to take photos with us. So it's whining and complaining mostly from my wife there. But there's my contact information. So let's start things out with, and I don't know how the sound will work on this video. If you've not seen this video, and I hear Greg typing, that's great. Mr. Non-muted.
So that was me, the guy that told everybody to mute. Sorry about that.
Okay, I'm going to blame Greg for everything. So if somebody says something wrong, I'm still going to shout it at Greg.
You can always blame me, Christian. Nothing changes over the years, so it's good.
That's right. So Microsoft put out this video a few months ago, and so I'm going to attempt to play that. If you can't hear the music, I don't know if it'll mute it or not. I think the AI may mute it. I'll move my microphone over and turn it up a little bit. But it's something to check out because with the music, with the deep bass, it's kind of cool. But let me play this video very quickly and I'll talk about it. Is the music coming through?
No music.
Not hearing anything.
Sorry,
in the video.
Folks. Picture everything's made of glass and glass pieces.
Do you want me to just narrate, Christian?
Can't hear Christian.
All right. So sorry. Yeah, the thank you AI for deciding for us that music is not something that we need to hear over videos. So you've got basically what that was illustrating is a number of different things, and one of it is that kind of the transferability of tasks across different experiences. And so I throw up this this block of icons. You should recognize most of them. Hopefully there's one or two that you have no idea what those things are. But when you think about tasks, and generally you think that top panel is where most of us day to day do things around tasks. You have project. I guess I can forward my. There we go. You have that Microsoft Project Planner next to it. You have Microsoft To Do, and you have Outlook tasks. Mm-hmm. On the second level, you have where you're going to see more and more features that are coming. There are some task activities, but they're kind of separate from that top level. Microsoft Teams, in fact, Caruana Gatimu there at Microsoft pushed out through her Coffee in the Cloud a vlog series, a video after Ignite, basically introducing something that's still not out there and available, but is the tasks capability inside of Teams. But that's something that is a big part of their vision and kind of pulling these pieces together. So I'll talk about that. A lot of us are familiar with the very rudimentary task capability within OneNote. Then you have the Office application, and then you have Cortana. And not so much Cortana about the the voice controls, that kind of automation, but more of the digital and intelligent capabilities that Cortana is evolving into. Then at the bottom layer, it's not so much a matter of the products. Does anybody know what that bottom right one is? Any guesses? If you have an Android device, then you probably recognize that. That's the Microsoft Launcher. And so looking at Yammer, SharePoint, and products like the Launcher, Microsoft, not that there's any story to tell today about an integrated task management within any of those, but Microsoft is talking about this task management kind of fabric tying together all these different applications wherever it makes sense to author or consume tasks. They want to be able to present that layer through that. But at the end of the day, no matter where you're creating a task, it will always roll up to two locations through to do and Planner. And so let's talk about Microsoft's vision, what they're talking about now, because this is something that, and just by way of my background, so I started out beginning of my career, early 90s, as a business analyst and technical writer. I became a project manager, went from EDS over to Pacific Bell, and was a technical project manager. One of the tasks that I had in our internal system, or our intranet, was to go and build a digital version of our project management methodology. And so I then took ownership of, and it was expanded, the capabilities, very rudimentary back in the day. And I always joke about, but it was how I built it. All of the icons that I built, the buttons, using Corel Draw to create these little images. And it was a painfully slow system, but people loved it because it gave a visual representation, like a Visio workflow of our project management methodology. And all I did was hyperlink to sections, to pages within our intranet. I don't even know what platform that thing lived on back in the day, but I was writing HTML, and so people loved that, being able to jump. Oh, I know I'm at this phase. We're past the ideation, past the requirements building, and what's the next phase? What are the standard documents for this? And being able to jump over to those views and get access to that documentation. People loved it. But one of the things that I hated about being a project manager, and kind of launched me into the beginning of my career, the end of the 90s, I started doing some consulting for a couple other companies, had some full-time positions, but was also consulting in the project and portfolio management space. And I started in 98, 99. I befriended the CEO of a company that was the first SaaS offering for project management. It was a company, they're still around, called Project Arena, although Damien's no longer the CEO. I think he's still on the board, Damien and Trekin. But he and I had a lot of great conversations as I was going and recommending some of these different solutions. But talking about the pain of project managers is updating tasks, constantly chasing people to find out what's the status of these tasks. And when you get really hardcore into project management, the technology, it's less about the focus is really less about the day-to-day tasks, and it's more about the roll-up of data and the accuracy of that data, so that you can start to forecast, well, what is it going to take? What is our resource allocation for these people, for these other resources? How can we improve on like our go-to-market with a new product? Last time it took us 6 weeks to take our product live. What can we do to reduce that to 5 weeks and save money and get products to market faster? Things like that is the data around that. Well, if your data going into those systems is crap, meaning the traditional method of a project manager chasing somebody for, a team of people for project updates, is that generally people wait until Friday, the end of the week, to provide the status. They're like, well, how much time do I'm like 80% done on that task. And yeah, there's maybe, I don't know, 6 to 10 hours left. It's like, well, 6 to 10 hours of what was originally estimated at 20 hours is not 80% done. So were you wrong in your estimates? Were you wrong in your tracking? Are we wrong now about what it's going to take to complete that? All of that is fuzzy data. Yeah.
If I could interrupt, we think we have the chat working.
Oh,
and so those of you that weren't able to get in, and we'll see as you were.
Excellent. Yeah. So just, and feel free to interrupt if there's questions or comments. And anyway,
so do we need to leave and come back, or what's the?
Sorry.
Do we need to leave the meeting and come back to get that to work, or?
I joined as a guest and it worked.
Mine still doesn't work.
All right.
That does suggest that backing out and coming back in might be necessary, maybe session-based.
Okay. I would propose that we'll just do audio chats then. If you have a question for Christian, just interrupt.
Yeah, just interrupt me.
Sounds good.
So I'll just, again, if I get upset, I'll just blame Greg, so that's all right. So the problem with all those, the net is that it's, crap data going in. Obviously, all of the analysis around that, the resource planning, is going to be shoddy at best. So that is something where Microsoft is finally, in their language, their view of what needs to happen around task management is this understanding that we need to drive ownership of those tasks down to the end users. And there's certainly other systems that do this, but an important part that we've learned in the collaboration space, an important aspect of task management, is that it needs to happen. The collection of that data in real time needs to happen within the current user experiences. When you have to split your time between different applications, even if it's an alt tab, a toggling between applications, you decrease productivity. The more that you can give people the work that they need to do, the information for them to fill out to complete about the tasks that they own in context to the work that they're doing in that current workload, the more productive people will be. And that's why with Microsoft Teams is just an incredibly powerful solution, because of all the apps, because of all the integrations, the extensions, all the things that you can do. You can go in there and tailor in a single team, for example, and this is the way that I use it with my part-time employees, is I'll have an employee assigned to a specific client, and that client team will have all of the tabs, all the channels which are set up that are designed to meet the specific needs of that client, so that the employee, they can be much more effective and efficient in what they're doing specifically in around that client. That's an idea. So as far as Microsoft's vision for tasks, there's really 3 things that they're looking at. So one is that coherence. So looking at that consistent look and feel and behavior. Think about how for years we complained that why is it when I'm in managing a list, a document library in SharePoint, why does that look so different and function different than OneDrive? And why isn't that just the same behavior? And so we now have expectations with the list in Teams versus the list in SharePoint versus the list in OneDrive, wherever it is, that we want to have consistent behavior. I always use the example of sharing. It used to be that if you were sharing, you're in PowerPoint and want to hit the share button, it was a different experience and behaviors than OneNote sharing, than SharePoint sharing, than any of these other experiences, even within the Office suite, where they said, it needs to be consistent behavior. When you hit a share button, you're used to seeing these capabilities, and that should be consistent everywhere. The second part of that is the intelligence. So it's not enough just to go and track information. It should be looking at that data and giving us useful guidance on what to go and do next. And so this is where you start to see with some of the Cortana integration, where you have that artificial intelligence and machine learning capability, the cognitive services, where more and more of the new and exciting features that we're going to see out of the products based on the data that it's seeing from our completion of tasks. So I think there's going to be a lot we're going to see even this year. Ignite, I think we're going to see a lot of really cool things happening around task management, stuff that I can't talk about here yet. And then the last one, of course, is that integration. And so as I mentioned earlier, wherever a task experience exists, it will connect to those two key task management endpoints of to-do and planner. And so what does that mean for project and project online? I'll talk about those things as well. So I guess the big question for a lot of people, I certainly had that, is Microsoft going in there and reimagining, reinventing project management? No, look, they're not trying to recreate all those things. They're just trying to, from that previous slide, make things more consistent, more intelligent, and coherent across these. We've come a long way. I don't know if anybody saw that this was an old app that was back in the earlier days of SharePoint. Somebody in the community went and built this, where it was this not quite drag and drop. You had the ability to kind of move this Kanban list management tool. I don't know if it's still out there. I no longer have the link. I think I blogged about it like 6, 7, 8 years ago, and maybe the link is still out there. So if you're still running a version of SharePoint 2007, hey, you've got options. I think most people are used to more of that drag and drop, that Trello-like experience is what you see here. The idea that I can invite anybody into and collaborate with. If I have an external vendor, if I want to attach local as well as cloud-based assets to a task, set things as recurring, drag and drop them across, and be able to track or have the metadata associated with the task change based on the bucket or the column that I have them in. I want that kind of capability. And so Microsoft has looked at some of these solutions. Of course, there's a number of different things that are out there, but they recognize that task management is tied into and part of that broader collaboration strategy. You're not just going and doing project management in a vacuum anymore. I mean, it used to be the project manager that owns the MS Project plan or logs into Project Server is chasing people for updates, is attaching things, and all of those systems, those project plans are all outside of where everybody is doing their actual work. And so you have to have an owner of that, a project manager, to go and keep everything coordinated. But as soon as they hit return on updating a task, it's out of date. The project plan is constantly chasing, and that is something that has to be corrected. The number one problem with Project and Project Online and Project Server, all those versions of that, is that, again, it's the realm of the project manager, not where end users go to submit their data. And that's something that is evolving and that's changing. So Microsoft's vision for modern project management, they published this out there. Got the link down below in the tech community. And by the way, all these slides, they're already out there and available out on slideshare.net. Just go search for my name and you'll find this. But they look at this. It looks much more like a collaboration stack than it does project management. Communication with chat, you've got meetings, you've got other news sources and events that are going on. You're collaborating. It's around documents, it's around images, feedback and polls, all of the notes, which are, I live and breathe inside of OneNote. And so all of those shared and personal notes. And then the management activities, tracking those things, then my personal view of those tasks, as well as that PMO view, which is that a single project or a portfolio looking across multiple projects. A lot of the feedback, in fact, it just came up in the session today. It wasn't in scope, and yet it came up in part of what they were presenting and asking for feedback was the portfolio view. And it's one of the most requested things that I hear about in the project world, where people say, yeah, but I want to be able to look across multiple plans. And what are the ways that I can go and do that? Can I today go and look in the management console for Planner and see the due dates and see a top level view of the 20 Planner hubs that are the plans, the boards that are in my system? And the answer is no, you cannot. And I'll talk about that. I'll come back to that. But it's so which tool do I use and when? People are always asking. Microsoft's response for this is use the tool that makes sense at the time, which is only slightly helpful, mostly not helpful. So everybody's asking kind of the same questions, but I'm going to walk through and as I explain each of these things. So if you think of the complexity of the tasks and what you want to get out of the tool and what's needed, and also the number of people going up, to-do is that personal view. You can share a to-do list. You can see your view of a broader list, a project plan, and what you have to do. You can go look at that within to-do by planner plan. You can look at all of the tasks assigned to you across multiple planners and multiple projects. Which is all fantastic. You have planner, of course, and then project desktop. That's for that single, project plan by project plan, and then project for the web, which is really displacing project server. Project server is still out there. I don't have any updates on what's happening. If people have project server, the standalone on-prem model, I believe it's still being made available with no plan to retire. I could be wrong. I don't know. I've not heard anything saying that they're going to shelf that at any time. And then you have the Tasks app, which is forthcoming, and I'll talk about what's unique about that view. But all of those things, to-do and even the Task app is really based on the personal view. Planner is that that small project team, and then you start to look at the larger project, the portfolio at the other tools. So looking at that top tier, so Microsoft project tasks, really no change to what happens here. You've got the work breakdown structure, your ability to go in and manage resource assignments, to be able to look at how am I loading up my individual employees with tasks, who is most efficient across those tasks. You still have some of the downside to managing an independent project, in that you have to then manually update those things, and how accurate somebody's statement is. Well, it's going to take me 20 hours to complete it, and then circumstances around that task. Some of them, they complete it in 5 hours. Are they just incredibly bad at forecasting what it would take to complete the task? Did they just come upon the right answer and it take a lot less time? Or were they just incredibly efficient with all the tools that you've provided for them, where they're able to now work and complete things at 400% efficiency? All questions that you need to ask about that, but it's a downside to managing standalone tasks. And there is not an immediate plan of what I can share of what's been released to provide a two-way link between a standalone Microsoft project plan and either Planner or To-Do. You still have what you have today is the ability to go and export from project, and it then detaches. It has no relationship then with the Planner tasks that you go and assign out. So if you want to update your project plan, you still have to go and collect all that information. But you do have the ability to go and host those plans out in a centralized location, of course, and people can go in and update their tasks if they've got the right permissions. And so it's better than it was 20 years ago, obviously, but still plenty of opportunity to fill some of those gaps. Planner, it's meant for that more collaborative, completion of tasks. So obviously you go in and you create those planner tasks. You can have the buckets or the columns that can align with your project management methodology. It's just a quick and easy way to get organized. But it still, I would argue, doesn't replace the need for that formal project plan for the more complex projects. But if you're going out, for a lot of my clients, we're building out a specific campaign and campaign activities. And so in the project plan, you may not need to have all that detail. You just have, well, this campaign in the project plan, it's going to start on this date. It's going to take roughly 4 weeks to complete. And I'm the owner, the project manager of that. I might then go and have the breakdown of that larger task for the completion of this campaign and manage this through Planner. So that's one way where I'm responsible for the board inside of Planner for the plan. As you see, I'm repeating some of the language here. Board is more commonly used in other Kanban-based list management tools, Trello, for example, a Trello board. Planner, they have to be different, calling things buckets instead of columns like normal people. But just so hopefully I'm not confusing anybody with that language. But I might then go out owning that campaign, create and manage the planner tasks, assign it out to everybody in the organization, and then those individuals can come in, and when they're done, they see their assigned tasks and mark them as complete. But it's a great way to just on the fly create things that are much more granular. Like, for example, I go in and I'm able to go and create these tasks, assign them out here. My internal, I've assigned everything to myself. And so I can only get mad at Greg, of course, if I am too overloaded, because it's probably Greg's fault. But what's great about with that integration out of the box with Planner is that I then have that to-do view, so I can actually see the reminders directly on my phone, be able to manage those things, add things to my planner with that straight through to-do. And so it's that integration which is out there and available today. It's fantastic. To-do, of course, it's geared towards that individual. And so there's a lot of different ways that you can filter the view to look at it. And you can see some of this in the Planner Hub roll-up. But within To-Do, you have, of course, the mobile app as well as the desktop app. You can go and flag items for your My Day view. And it's great. You can see, of course, important. You can see the Assign to Me view. And what's great about the Assign to Me view is that if anyone anywhere in Planner assigns a task to you, there might be 30 different Planner plans or boards out there, and every one of those plans might have multiple tasks assigned to you. First off, I'm sorry that that's now possible. We'll get some people will be overwhelmed very quickly.
You can blame that on that too, Christian. That's okay.
Yeah. but you can go in there and be able to see all of those tasks assigned to you, and then go and make your case for, you assigned this to me. I have absolutely nothing to do with this project. How dare you, sir? How dare you, Greg, assign me these tasks? No, but you can go in and you see all those tasks. What's great about the My Day, and I use this, I don't use it every day, but when I know that hey, I need to work through tasks that are happening across 3 different projects or clients, I'll say, okay, well, I'll go in and prioritize. I've got, of the 50 tasks assigned to me, the ones that I'm going to try and tackle today just to get myself organized, I will go and flag those into the My Day view. And that, by me adding them to this list and sorting them and organizing the tasks that I need to complete, doesn't alter anything about those planner plans. And so it's just a personalized view of and a prioritization of tasks for you to become efficient in the things that you need to do. And of course, you click on something on the right side there, you see kind of the breakout of what needs to be done, add other tasks to complete. And so it's, for people that are list driven, it is fantastic. And as you add to that and you create and complete more tasks, as you can see there, you can add additional steps. You can add it to your My Day. You can even push things off and say, hey, it's on my Day, but I'm not able to do it. You can from right there, here's the integration with Outlook, where it can actually go in and respond to people, or to assign a task or reassign or create something, pull other people in as co-owners of that task, and have a conversation right there within the application. So this is that in context collaborative activity around task.
Hey, Christian.
Yeah.
I love the idea of the My Day, and I've always meant to start using it and never have. Do you use that My Day feature?
I do. As I said, I don't use it every day, but I'm actually, I'm using it today. So today I've got 4 other calls today, and I have 3 deliverables that are due for a client for an 8 a.m. meeting tomorrow. So I'm making sure that I'm staying on top of specifically what I need to do today to be ready for that 8 a.m. meeting tomorrow morning. And the things that I have to do in the order in which I know that they have to be done by priority. So it's one of those things where usually I have just my various lists. Let's see if I have something that I can show you here. Like here's something like in To Do. I don't know if you can still see me. Am I still on screen in your guys' view? But I have my various shopping lists and stuff. But let me see if I have here's a great example that I have. That I don't know if you can see in my phone.
It does. The background does funny things to your phone, but we can kind of see.
Yeah. So it's but I basically I use this where I have a number of different lists. So throughout the day, if I I've got a family shopping list that's shared. So I've got that personalized view of To Do, and the list is shared with my wife and my in-laws. So if I remember something, oh yeah, you know what, we're out of that. Rather than have a sticky note and wonder if there's a shopping list somewhere in the house, is somebody next time I do a run over to do a pickup at Walmart, I know what everybody else needs. So we've got a to-do list for that. Similarly, I have a list for, as I'm reading some content, I'm like, well, that's a really great article idea for this client. So I'll go in and add to this article ideas list, and I might then go flag that item for to be reminded, either in my added to my day. I don't like the naming mechanism there, but or I might say due tomorrow, so that I'll automatically get the reminder, hey, this is a blog post for my client extranet user manager that I might want to do tomorrow and deliver to them. So it's great to have that capability. And then of course, there is also today available, and you can go and test it yourself. But as you add to Planner and assign something to yourself, have your phone open with that list, that assigned to me list, and it pretty much in real time, you'll see that new task pop up on your list. So that integration is out there and available today. And that's one of the key tenets of their strategy overall, is that personal view. If there's a task that's created, even in that Microsoft project, that standalone application, a project manager goes and synchronizes that and exports those tasks that people will get notifications. It'll show up assigned to you that this task is there. There needs to be deeper integration with Project and with Project Online, but that is something that they are thinking about. So that's pretty cool. As I mentioned, you can share those to-do lists. If you are looking at a list that is based on a planner that's within your organization, that it is just like everything within SharePoint and Office 365 and Microsoft 365. It is tied to the permissions of that that group, that organization. You can't then share things that are part of a private. You're limited to only people that have permissions to that area to go and share that list out. So it does keep separated personal lists from work-related enterprise lists. But sharing those things out there, again, just very easy to go and write that. Anybody within your calendar, anything within your GAL, you'll be able to assign these tasks, and it just works. So that's great. That's out there today. So you can, from To-Do, add things into those buckets that you have access to within Planner. Outlook tasks is another thing which there's still work to be done. So when I demo some of the capabilities, of course, we're used to receive an email in, and I grab that email in Outlook, I drag it down to my calendar, and I set up time to go and, to meet with somebody, to set aside time to work on that request that somebody has made. Fewer people have actually, if you see down there in the bottom left, there's actually the little check mark. Drag and drop that email down and create a task. And so what's great about this is you go and do that. You can then still set up time to go and work on that task, but there's that task view that you can open up around calendar items. Again, with that integration, you can see across these things. Now, there is in To-Do, as you can see on the left side of the screen here, you have that flagged email view. One of the early integrations of Wunderlist, and for those that aren't familiar with Wunderlist, Microsoft acquired this list management tool, Wunderlist, and then quickly shelved it and replaced it with To-Do. So I don't know if it was a competitive move to shut down one of the leading list management tools, or what they pulled from a technology standpoint. I wasn't following that as closely. I was a Wunderlist user, but moved over to To-Do.
Christian?
Yeah.
They did say when they did the purchase, because I was also a loyal Wunderlist user, they did say that they were moving that team into the To-Do team. I don't know if that was marketing or if it actually happened, but that was what they said at the time.
Yeah, so how much of the technology, well, it's kind of like, Yammer. They initially, out of Jairus Pataro's mouth, said that it was more, the number one priority was a competitive stop, the acquisition of Yammer, even though they rewrote the history around that. This is, according to me, I just happened to be there and talk to people. I was a Yammer partner as well, but it was more of a competitive move. They didn't really think about how it actually fit in the overlap, and they figured that stuff out later. In fact, just this year, they finally figured out how it all integrates. That's a different story. I'm a Yammer fan, but I won't. Okay, I'll move on. Yeah, they shut down Wunderlist, but one of the capabilities of Wunderlist that was annoying was, by default, it would, with an integration with Outlook, is it imported all of your flagged emails. That's a very different thing. If I flag an email, I might just be highlighting something to follow up on. It doesn't mean that it's now a task. And so they've separated that. They've given you that filtered view of that flagged email. You can then go and update a flagged email and move it into create a full task around that. But by default, it's treated differently than a task. But I thought that was an important distinction. And you can see on the right side, the that flagged email and just like any other task, go in there and then apply, the constraints around that, the steps that are included, the updates, assign it to other people, kind of all those same capabilities. So now let's move down. So that's that top tier. Let's go to the second tier. What else is happening? What else is Microsoft doing? The biggest news around this was Microsoft Teams. Of course, Teams is just taken off. And so let me just say that it's, first and foremost, Teams is consuming from To-Do and Planner. It's not just a new way of looking at those tasks. That's an important distinction. It's consuming that information and surfacing it in a different way. It's giving you a filtered view. If I want to go and look at everything that's assigned to me across all Planner plans, I go to To-Do. If I want to go in depth on what's happening on a specific project, I go to Planner. If I want to go in and look at what's happening in relation to the team that might be set up around a larger initiative, and it might have multiple Planner plans that are part of that, I do that through this feature. It's coming soon. I don't know when. Due dates for things. I thought it was H1 of this year. I don't know if anybody has any newer information than that, but I think it may have fallen victim to some of the feature delays that have happened just because of the COVID-19 stuff. But it's forthcoming. I will definitely have this prior to Ignite in the fall. But at last year's Ignite, they announced tasks and teams. So there's a video that's out there. This is from the Microsoft 365 blog. You can go and see the kind of the animated view. But I can go in Teams, and for example, and I can go in there and look at an individual plan, or I could look at my filtered view of a plan as it relates to this team that I'm a member of. And I can look at everything that's part of that team. I can look at tasks across multiple plans and aggregate those. I can look at my personal view from that team layer, those things that are important, that are prioritized, that the due dates are coming up. So they've not provided guidance on whether you'll be able to create other views. So all things that we need to once we see the capabilities come live. But again, you've got the personal view in To-Do. You have that team-based or channel-based view of multiple plans in Teams, and you have the standalone Planner plans as well. So you're just going to have different ways. Maybe there's a better way to look at this information, where you can go in and look at. Here you have again those various. Bless you. You have the recent, the pinned or recent. You can have the teams. So you can really organize your task view within Teams across all of these different plans, and really give yourself kind of a hub to go in and look at and change the views, look at the assignments, look at the priority, look at the due dates. And then like any other list, you can change. What if I want to look at based on assigned to, click on assigned to, get an alphabetical listing, look at it by priority, due date, and be able to look at the detail and explore across multiple plans is going to be a huge plus and answer a lot of needs for that more portfolio view. It's still, I would argue, not that portfolio management view of the world, but you get that it doesn't belong here, in my view, in Teams. It's something that when you really need that portfolio view, that's what Project Online or Project Server, that's what it's really built for, to do, is to look across that manner. OneNote tasks is another area where there's a lot of room for an improvement, and they are making big plans for this. So how that works today, of course, you can go in as you're taking notes, you can select those items, go up to the little flag, and you can assign those things. Hey, they're due, here's these dates. It'll automatically then go and flag them here. It will then show up within Outlook within the tasks view. You can see over on the left side of that, the to-do list. You can actually see those things, that My Tasks view. So that's great. However, there's still some work to be done. This is the Outlook view. It doesn't yet move those things over into, but in a roundabout way, you'll see it in the To-Do app. Because it's here in Outlook, those tasks created, it essentially shows up in just, in a filtered view within the To-Do app. It doesn't yet connect anything over to a planner hub. So what I'd love to see, and I imagine with their broader vision and strategy, is that from OneNote, where I'm taking these notes, I'm able to go in and there will be more of a dialog box that will open up that will allow me to point to specific plans that I'm a member of and that I have the ability to write to. So I foresee that's where it's going. Their responses to that kind of feedback has been, that fits in with our strategy and our long-term view. So that kind of non-answer from the product team, where it actually fits in the roadmap, and there's no discussion around time frame for that kind of deeper integration. But they do understand that OneNote is a primary interface that they need to expand on the task capability. So that's pretty exciting. The new Office app tasks, it's not just the app, the mobile app, which is great. What needs to be surfaced through that, or if anything, I don't know about that, but I was speaking more to the Office suite of tools. You think about like this is some press out there. You can see the example here. I've actually blogged about this. But like in Word, you start to see some of the intelligent capability where you can mention people in a collaborative edit, co-edit of a Word doc. So for example, this example here, so if you have a section where you're looking for input from one or more people, you can mention them, put in the instruction like, hey, Greg, I need you to come and update the project status or share the description, the uniform description of this resource, this project that you're working on, add it to this parent document and save it. And so we might have like the chat over on the right side, we might be co-editing in real time. But when I do that mention and assign that task, it will automatically then show up in the to-do app for Greg. Hey, Christian's assigned you this task to go in and update this Word doc with a quick link over to get to this collaborative space. So just another example of how they are integrating into the native productivity suite. So Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Word, and elsewhere, that you'll be able to assign tasks to people. They in real time can respond. You can have a conversation that's associated with that artifact, and then will have that task assigned to them. It does not yet roll up to a plan. That's been feedback. Like if I assign this to Greg, can I also assign this so that it's tracked within a plan that Greg and I are both members of? Is there a default organizational plan for these kinds of tasks? So those are some of the questions that Microsoft is looking at. What does that experience look like? By default, where do these roll to? Or does it ask you, do you have to assign it? Do you assign it as a standalone personal task? Or can I associate it to a plan? Or right there on the fly, if there's not an existing plan that exists, can I create a new plan to hold those items that I'm assigning to people? All important questions that need to be answered. The Cortana tasks, so it's part of that intelligence. So I think Microsoft recognized that going and creating the smart devices. I bought one of the smart devices, the Cortana devices, was less than impressed with its accuracy, but have been very impressed with the digital assistant capabilities that Microsoft has been working on. So they've basically refocused their efforts. They're not going away from the audio commands, the spoken word commands. I have it turned off on my computer because it's to mention Cortana a dozen times a day, super annoying to have it pop up and do other things when I'm giving a presentation. But I won't say the Fruity device or the Amazon device name over there because they're listening in right there and there. So, but there's more that's happening around task management. So, for example, to be able to go in and through the audio controls with Cortana through the desktop, to be able to go in and create tasks. So if you're doing hands-free while you're driving, you'll have that capability. There's integrations that are available today. Honestly, I've not done it through some of the Microsoft capabilities. I've not gone and set up Power Automate, for example, to link some of the tools. But I know that I use If This Then That, IFTTT, and I've done an integration so I can actually, as I'm driving, I can access and ask Siri to do things. She just woke up there. But I've set up To Do as my default task tool for Siri so that I can ask her to do things and it will then go over and create things within To Do. And so there's some integrations between Cortana and these tools, as well as Cortana and Siri and Cortana and the Amazon super hypersensitive device that's I'm looking at her over in the window there. Won't say her name. But there's just a lot that you can do there to go in as you're completing tasks. Of course, I've linked to this blog where he is showing some of the ways the integrations between Cortana and the To Do app. So a lot of cool things that are out there and available today. So if you are really into that, setting up the smart devices around your home, there's a lot you can do there, and you can, especially with my Echo device or the Amazon devices, to go and set up that automation. So anywhere, go and set up tasks, but you can link both Siri and Alexa to that device. Yeah, she just woke up there because I said her name. So the last tier is I've got this generic in my build. I keep forgetting to fix that. There we go. Other task integrations. So there's nothing to really talk about today. I'm including these because with SharePoint and Yammer, because there are, historically there have been some task creation capabilities, and Microsoft kind of stepped back from some of those integrations today as they're sorting out other capabilities, but they'll be back. Some organizations are very SharePoint centric in the way that they collaborate and work. Some organizations are very email centric. Others are very Teams or Yammer centric. It might be this central hub for where a lot of these activities happen. And Microsoft recognizes we need to provide an entry point and a management of tasks within each one of those experiences. So they are looking at what does that look like in SharePoint? What does that look like in Yammer? What does that look like for this right now, the launcher application, that icon that nobody recognizes, is very specific to Android, but that it makes sense to be able to surface in that Microsoft experience tasks as part of that. When you log into your Android device and open up that launcher app, that it should be kind of like another version of the My Day, where it says, hey, here's the most urgent tasks that are part of this before you go and look at the other Microsoft services that are part of your Android device. Ultimately, though, again, it goes back to this diagram. Which tool should I use and when? And they're trying to, the broader strategy, the longer game, is that all of these things will be integrated. But for now, in the guidance, these are probably 4 slides that are the most useful here as far as links to go take a look. Project Online, which is that for project-centric organizations that want to have that portfolio management, portfolio view, and be able to do this online and manage the resources. Maybe you're creating automated tools and forms and surveys and other capabilities to allow a distributed network of employees to go in and update statuses. Project in line is probably your best bet for that. For that standalone project manager that owns a number of single projects, project is still that kind of gold standard for that, more complex project, but it's a standalone. I still think that there needs to be, as part of the export capability, a way to go and at least asynchronously link between project and project online, as well as planner, and by way of, and as an end result going down to do. It's not there yet today, but they are thinking about what that needs to look like in the future. Planner, of course, is that quick creation of more ad hoc collaboration and planning activities. It doesn't really, there's not a direct connection between a planner plan and a project plan. There could be, but they've kept that ambiguous because different companies have different requirements, different needs around that. So you can set that up. In the example that I used earlier about that single campaign, maybe that's the way that your organization, your methodology, your project management methodology, where your project plan, you keep some things higher level, and then you create plans for each one of those broader activities. And that's the way that you manage your projects. And then the project manager is responsible for providing that aggregate view up to the formal project plan. And then at that granular level is the Microsoft To-Do, which is about that personalized view into all of these different things. And that's, if you don't have Microsoft To-Do today on your phone, go and install it. Go take a look at it, play with it. Again, I use it as in my personal life, as well as in project related activities. Some of the other things I've provided, I did a longer blog post around Microsoft's vision for task management. I actually have going live one today, but I've got a blog series where I'm finally going in, and I've done a couple this month where I'm starting to explore a little more in depth into each one of the integrations. So I've got I still use my written lists, which are, why I'm still doing that. And I've got To-Do open on my screen, and yet I'm still doing sticky notes with lists. It's just the way my mind works. I capture information and I transfer that information. But
is
some
this
of the
the
other
part?
ones are,
Is this the part, Christian, where we call you a Luddite for using paper?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
I welcome that. In fact, that I was talking with Sean McDonough yesterday about interesting T-shirts, and I need one that just has task management Luddite or something, and that has like a daytimer picture. Anyway, some of the other links out there, should I use Project Planner to do tasks and teams? So Microsoft, funny enough, they've had these questions before. They have answers, the responses to some of these things to help you figure out. And then, of course, guidance on each one of these things. Definitely go take a look at those links. And then, of course, there's the shortened URL to my slides. If you'd like to go take a look, you can download them, leverage those. If you've got any other questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. This entire presentation is also recorded. So when I gave this a month and a half ago, it's out, the recording out on my YouTube channel as well. But those are all the ways that you can find me. And